Hello everyone, my name is Arpit Shah and I previously took the database class with Professor Emelinsky. My goal today is to help you all get started in creating a web application just like the one that you can see right here. It uses Flask with Python on the server side and Angular on the UI. You'll need to have a working understanding of Python along with JavaScript or TypeScript, though ultimately you'll be using TypeScript on the UI. Along with that, you'll also look at some HTML and CSS. The goal is to teach you how to use some very common components in the projects that were submitted in previous years to show the insights that you found in your data. That means you'll need dropdowns, input fields, tables, and a couple of graphs. Now, this application isn't that complex. It doesn't really show any interesting insight, but that's okay. Okay, so I will be using the Visual Studio Code IDE. You'll need to have Python and Node.js installed, preferably the latest versions. For Python, you should have 3 dot something, right? I will be developing inside this bar beer drinker folder, but you can create some other folder name if you'd like. Just within that folder though, we'll need to create a server folder to get started. So new folder, server. And within the server folder, we're going to put all of our Python code. So the server side Python code will all be within this one folder inside our overall project. Now, going inside the server folder, you'll need to install the virtual env package using pip and get a virtual environment set up. To do that, you would say pip install virtual env. Once you do this, you'll have the virtual env command enabled, and then you should be able to create a virtual environment like so. Virtual env space, and then you would give the folder name for your virtual environment. I'm going to just say venv. All right, so now with this done, you would see this venv folder under the server folder. It has a folder inside of that called scripts, and within there, there's these activate files. That's what you would use to activate the virtual environment. So let's do that. Venv scripts and activate. Now, once the virtual environment is activated, you should start seeing this on the left before the bash prompt. That means you are inside the virtual environment. When you use the Python command from within the virtual environment, you're really going to be using the Python command from within this folder, not your actual Python installation on your machine. That's helpful because this way now, when you use Python, it's specific for your project. When you install packages using pip, they will be for this specific project. They'll be stored within lib or somewhere else. Yeah, within lib and site packages. All right, so that is how you get the virtual environment. And now let's get started with installing the packages we'll need. We'll need to have Flask. And actually, I think that might be it to get started. So pip install Flask. Okay, so hopefully, unless I'm forgetting something, we have the one package that we needed. So to create the project now, I'm going to have a bar beer drinker folder inside of our server folder, don't forget. And within there, I'm going to create an init Python file. This init Python file actually has 2 underscores, so be careful of that. If you only have one, it might not be recognized correctly. But what happens is this represents the entry point towards our Python project and our Python module, really. So within here, we're going to import Flask. We're going to define the application, and then we'll use it outside to trigger the application and get things started. Okay, so the first thing will be just saying from Flask, import Flask, app equals Flask underscore name, and that would be it. Now for this app over here, that really now one important thing here is the app variable. That one variable represents your Flask application, and we will use that to start the application to define different mappings for your REST API routes, which we'll get further into later on, and a bunch of other stuff. One thing which we'll also need is the hello world route, which I'm about to create. To create that route, we'll say app route slash, and then we'll define this to be hello world. Okay, that's pretty much it for this file. We'll also need to have an app file outside, which we'll use to trigger the application. So from here, let's import our app and say if we're inside the main execution context, then app.run with the debug flag on and port 8080. Along with that, I'm going to print out a message saying okay, now let's try it out. Python app. Now, one thing to note here is this one line on line 5, print the app is now running, doesn't actually get printed. And the reason why is because we never get to this line until after the run execution is done. And that won't happen until I kill the app. So if I were to try this out right now, then it prints. You know what? Let's just remove this. So now, let's try again. Python app.py. And same thing, just doesn't print. And hopefully it shouldn't since we removed the line. And now we can visit this. So it's 127.0.0.1 and then port 8080. What that really means is it's localhost 8080. That's all we really need to remember out of it. I'm going to create a new tab, localhost 8080. And if everything works correctly, you'll see this. Hello world. Okay, so that's pretty much it. You have a simple Flask web app with a hello world message that the user would see whenever they visit your application. Ultimately, this URL won't be the same. You're going to have your application deployed elsewhere, not just from your laptop. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video.